Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's VC Task Force Gary's Picks event for investors and startups. My name is Joel Rosenberg, Director of Business Development and Strategy for VC Task Force. VC Task Force is an organization where the venture community comes together to address critical issues, provide workshops, and other events for the benefit of the venture and entrepreneurial communities. VC Task Force provides access to an extensive ecosystem of VCs, corporate VCs, and angel investors. You may ask questions anytime during today's event, and time permitting, they will be answered live after today's interview. It is my pleasure to welcome Gary's Picks host, Gary Fowler. Gary is CEO and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, an award-winning growth stage AI venture studio. Gary is also co-founder of the award-winning AI startup, Yva.ai, as well as the investment firm DY Investments. Today, Gary will be interviewing special guest, Dr. Simon Schillebeeckx, co-founder of Handprint. Dr. Schillebeeckx is an academic entrepreneur of Belgian origin, living and working in Singapore. The focus of his work is on the use of digital technologies to tackle sustainability challenges. As an entrepreneur, he co-founded Handprint, a climate tech venture on a mission to imbue every business transaction with positive impact, and the global mangrove trust, a nonprofit developing mangrove reforestation projects and designing a new approach to blue carbon certification. As an academic, he is assistant professor of strategic management at Singapore Management University, where he teaches sustainable operations and business model innovation. Since April 1st, he's also a dad of a twin boy and girl. Congratulations. Handprint is on a mission to integrate positive impact into every business transaction through its impact as a service model. Take it away, Gary.
Great to be here, Joel. Thanks, June. Great to have you here, Dr. Schillebeeckx. My name's Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've done 17 companies, and I've been involved in 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion, not million, and also Yva.ai, an AI HR tech company. Love artificial intelligence, quantum computing, cybersecurity. I've written 161 articles in the last 18 months in places like Forbes Magazine. I've done about 700 podcasts. So love this stuff, and it's great to be doing one more. So, Dr. Schillebeeckx, or do you like Simon? What do you prefer better?
Please call me Simon.
I mean, I love the name. Schillebeeckx is actually a beautiful name, but the spelling is tough. I got to tell you, the sound is perfect, but the spelling's tough.
Even in my native language, it's completely uncommon to have a CKX in the end of anything or in any word. So it's, yeah.
So Simon, where are you from originally? Because you've been in Spain, you went to school in Nottingham. I mean, where are you from originally? Where were you born?
So I hail from Belgium. I spent the first 23 years of my life there before moving to the UK for 1 year, then South America for a year, then back to Belgium and the Netherlands, then to London in the UK, and then in 2015 I moved to Singapore.
Okay, so why did you move so much?
I was just chasing what I wanted to do. I mean, I was never really like hell-bent on moving anywhere, but at some point during my first degree, I started getting interested in business ethics and sustainability. And I talked to my, at the time, dissertation supervisor about pursuing an additional master's degree. And he said, well, probably going to Nottingham University in the UK is going to be the best option, because that's back in 2006, that was probably one of the best places to do corporate social responsibility. So I did that, and then I decided I'm taking a year off. I'm going to travel in South America, and then London came later, just to pursue my PhD. And then at a very random Tuesday morning, I got an offer to move to Singapore, and I took it.
Wow!
So I've been here now for 6 years.
So Simon, what's life like in Singapore?
I mean, it's been very different since the beginning of COVID than it was before. You know, The best thing about Singapore is that it's great to get out of. That's what many people say. It's a very small country, but very, very modern, very well organized, tightly run government. Everything works very well. But with COVID, of course, the whole kind of country shut down. The borders are still closed by and large, so we haven't been able to travel or go home for the last 18 months. My parents haven't seen my kids, so that's a bit sad, but overall, it's a pretty good place to live.
It's interesting because I was just looking yesterday, and I mean, Singapore has a lot of startup activity, but only 6 unicorns. It's really interesting to me. I mean, because I hear, I mean, Singapore's everywhere, right? But it's interesting. What happens to those startups in Singapore? Do they leave? Do they move to some other place, or what happens? It's just, you seem to be right in the middle, you know, with Handprint of the, you know, as you say, edupreneur academic opportunities. So what's going on?
Well, I think it's very hard to build a unicorn in a very small internal market, right? Singapore is 5.8 million people, and building a unicorn in such a small country is very difficult, which means you need to go abroad very quickly. And once you go abroad, you end up going to countries in Southeast Asia that are not necessarily as affluent, and you need to deal with all the different languages and the different cultures. And we have Indonesia and Malaysia, which are Muslim countries. We have Thailand, which is like a variety of religions. Then we have more like Cambodia, Laos, which are much more developing countries. So building that scale is not that easy. And so I think it's really upon startups that are based here to find access to the US market, find access to the European market, which is where you can build that scale.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, that's why we put GSD Get You Done Venture Studios together, because I was living in Russia at the time, and you know, Silicon Valley's had about 390 unicorns, right? And you know, it's really a port to the rest of the world. So it doesn't matter where you're from, Singapore, or you're from Malaysia, or you're from Australia, or Germany. It doesn't matter. I mean, this valuations are higher. It's interesting. But that brings us to the next point. So let's talk about, you know, our planet, you know, from a sustainability standpoint, some concerns, right? The population of the planet's going to go from 8.1 billion to 13 billion by the end of this century. The average temperatures across the planet could go up anywhere from 6 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, which is going to have a dramatic impact on the polar ice caps and melting. You know, we could have sea levels increase 2 to 7 feet. And I'll never forget this too. And I know this is a near and dear to your heart, but I remember this Dr. Irving Crick, who did a company called Strategic Weather Services, actually Crick and Associates in the beginning. And he was telling me in the 90s, a long time ago now, about global warming. He had been a professor at Princeton, and he was telling me what was going to happen. And I mean, at the time, nobody was listening to futurists, if you will. And he said, well, here are the models, and he's run them. And this guy he was 80 some years old when I met him. He actually studied under Albert Einstein at Princeton when he was a visiting professor. So, I mean, or a professor. So this guy's been around the block. Anyhow, I was fascinated. And when he was telling me about super hurricanes, he was telling me about how it's sometime in the based on his models, in the mid 2000s, that the population would double, the population would increase, and at the same time, we would have to double food supply. And I just heard recently that by 2050, we're going to have to double the amount of food on the planet Earth in order to be able to feed the planet. And so we got a lot of stuff. And you know, I like what you're doing. Your platforms connected companies to causes around the world. So how does that work? And I know you're using the help of a global board, but impact board, but how does it work?
So in a way, Handprint does 2 quite different things. We're a multi-sided platform, so where we connect companies, corporate clients that are in B2B or in B2C to impact projects. So, and that could be NGOs that are doing reforestation, ocean plastic cleanup, coral reef reconstruction, but also social impact. So we've got a project in Cambodia that's helping women that escape from sexual slavery. And so in that way, we're just a multi-sided market. But we realized when we were building the platform, and
I mean, when you do that, Simon, I just want to stop there. That's fascinating because there's so much servitude that's out there today, and things that are happening. I mean, how does somebody get a hold of you? How do you stop that kind of atrocious behavior? What do you do? Like, say there's somebody in Cambodia. How does it work? How do they get a hold of you? And what do you do?
So, I mean, we basically operate as a commercial agent for these impact partners. So we are not actively involved in the day-to-day management of their operations and their work on the ground, although we do provide them with technological tools. But so we serve as a commercial agent. And so by creating that multi-sided platform, companies can basically go to Handprint and just say, okay, we're going to support impact in the form of just like an impact purchase or a donation. But the reality is that doing that just doesn't appeal to the vast majority of companies because there is insufficient value appropriation possible when you're just giving money away, right? That's not the core of a business. And so what we built is a set of tools that enables companies to integrate these kind of micro contributions to these positive impact partners into a variety of business processes that are very simple. So we started with e-commerce. And so then at the moment of checkouts, a company can say, hey, we're doing something good for the world because 1% of your purchase is going to be rerouted to this good cause.
I got it. So, so basically what you're doing is you're giving them an opportunity to, so is it 1% of, if it's, let's say it's $100 bill, is it 1% of that 100 or is it something on top of that 100?
So it depends on the client and it depends on the type of plugin that they're using. So, and this is just the e-commerce use case. So, but we've built something for digital advertising. That's a $450 billion industry that right now does nothing else but put the ads on your phone and on your computer and everywhere. And so with Teats, we've built a system that enables ads to become planet positive. So you get a little badge on your ad that says this ad plants trees, for instance. And then for every impression the ad generates, or for every engagement the ad generates, a micro donation is going to be tracked that at the end of the month is going to be sent to an impact partner. And so what
that's fantastic. And so tell me about it. What's the biggest deal that you put together? I mean, this is fascinating. What kind of causes? Who's the biggest deal that you're putting together where you can say, listen, this is really what we've been able to do with Handprint. And this is exactly an opportunity that we've gone out. So if it's trees in the Amazon or whatever.
Well, it's not in the Amazon. I mean, because we're based in Southeast Asia, we're mainly working in Southeast Asia at the moment.
Got it. So are you going to expand, Simon? Or are you going to move beyond the border?
Yeah, we've got one of our founders is in Virginia right now. We've got a team on the ground there. Our other founder is in France. So we are a very tiny multinational already. We've got companies from, I think, 20 different countries that are using Handprint right now, but our focus in the beginning is on Asia. And so the projects we do, because the way we operate is by enabling companies to make these micro contributions to these impact partners. So on a monthly basis, what we see is that the amount of money that we send to impact partners is going up. And that is pretty much our key KPI as an organization. And we are a social enterprise, we're a for-profit venture, but we have a very strong environmental core. This is what we are trying to achieve. We're trying to.
And Simon, how do you make money? Do you take a percentage of the donation, or do you charge people for the service, or how does it work?
So it's ambiguous. There are a variety of business models that we're testing out, and we're piloting different approaches with different types of customers. I said we have B2B customers, we have platforms. We've just been talking with Lazada, one of the biggest e-commerce platforms here in Asia. And so the business model changes. The main components are we take a 5% fee of the money that is being raised, which is about 20% less than NGOs typically pay for fundraising. We charge per API call. That is the data transactions. And then for specific features, we charge a monthly premium. So for instance, if you download via Shopify our web plugin or a plugin that links into your cart, we enable you to do this for free and to use this service completely for free. But if you want to tailor the design of the plugin so that it perfectly fits with your website, you want to change the colors, you want to change the text, you can do that, but then you'll pay a monthly fee. So this is one of the ways we monetize.
Got it. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's like unlimited possibilities, right? And I mean, the world needs it because, you know, a lot of times, you know, another thing is, what about this, Simon? What about direct contributions? Because sometimes these organizations that are out there, their management fees are so high that the people that ultimately try to get the money don't get it, right? There's not a lot left over.
This is this is absolutely true, right? If you look at, we've done a lot of research on this. I said that I come out of the academic background. So we did this research on the support for reforestation projects through the purchasing of carbon credits in the carbon markets. And up to 80% of the money that is being spent on a credit doesn't reach local communities. With Handprint, it's 94%. So 94% of the money actually reaches the local communities. And we have financial transparency technology in the background that shows this to our customers. So I think this is extremely important. Another benefit is that what we really do is we try to
I mean, it's extremely important because it's not fair. Why in the world should the bulk of the money that gets raised go to some management fees for some high power salaries, right? It should be, or infrastructure be given to the people that really need it. I understand there needs to be management. I understand there needs to be infrastructure, but I mean, come on, there's got to be a limit. And, you know, if we really want to help people, we got to make the dent. I mean, this incredible technology.
And it's not only the management fees, because that's of course a big thing, but it's also verification. The cost of verification of these projects, like a reforestation project, which typically means you put boots on the ground to go roam around the forest, measure trees, highly ineffective, completely non-scalable process. So we are working with machine learning, with remote sensing, using satellites in order to analyze how forests evolve over time and turn that into carbon estimates.
Well, now, how does that work with the computer vision? Tell us a little bit about it. That's very interesting. How do you, where does it come from? Satellite pictures, or where are you getting the data?
So we're working with a partner here in Singapore called Kumi Analytics on this specific aspect. So what we're doing indeed is we're using satellite images from relatively high resolution satellites. Initially, we tried with a 30-meter resolution, but you don't get good results. So now we pay a bit more, but we get to 1 square meter resolution. And so we use that.
Wow, you could see the color of somebody's shirt with that.
But you need to, because the color of the canopy is extremely important in terms of addressing and evaluating, let's say, on a 6-month basis, okay, what is really happening in this forest? And you need to have that alarm system in place, because these are big plots of land you talk about. So you can't just expect that communities are just going to be present there. So you need to be able to say, hey, based on our analysis, this is a piece of land that needs work. So, and then you need to be able to mobilize the community to actually get there, put trees in the ground, or do additional like care for the forest so that the forest remains healthy.
Yeah, interesting. That's really interesting. I like that. What kind of causes? Tell us a little bit about what kind of companies are coming in and what kind of causes they're working on today.
So on the corporate side or on the impact
on the corporate side, you know, so yeah, I mean, impact side, what corporate, because corporates have impact and sustainability objectives. What kind of causes are they interested in? What's out there right now that's interesting?
So right now, the vast majority of our contributions are going to ocean plastic cleanup and reforestation projects, which is logical. I think these are two things that are right now quite marketable. Everybody knows about carbon footprints, and then plastic pollution is a massive issue. So these are the two most
popular. It's massive on a massive scale. I read a couple of months ago that an entire flotilla of garbage a lot of it came from Japan, right? With the tsunami, but all over, and came into close to Seattle in the US, and it was literally like a floating pile of garbage, you know?
Yeah, there is a permanent pile of garbage known as the garbage vortex that is floating around in the Pacific somewhere. It's 4 times the size of Texas. So yeah, we have a lot of plastic problems.
And what do they do? I mean, what happens? So what happens? Do they take big ships out there to try to clean it up, or what do they do to it?
It's a project that some people in the Netherlands that I know are working on, but we don't know what to do with this. It is a massive problem. It ends up in our food chain. There was recently some evidence produced, which was very scary, that researchers found evidence of microplastics in the placenta of women after giving birth. So that is the impact that this is having on the bottom of the food chain, and as a consequence on everything we eat. Everything that comes out of the ocean is probably going to have plastic. So doing this ocean plastic cleanups is extremely important, but of course we need scale hundreds of thousands of times the scale that we have today. And so we need to get to a system where companies that put plastic into the market are legally obliged to either fully recycle it or ideally do more than just recycle it and also remove additional plastic from the market. I mean, we found plastic in the Mariana Trench, right? That's the deepest point
Are
on
you
Earth.
serious?
Yes.
It's like 5 miles down. It's crazy. That's amazing. No, and you hear about it every day about some, plastic in some, some seal, or I mean, all over different places where plastic's turning up, or whales. It's crazy. I mean, think about this. I mean, I remember that project that I had just talked about, the weather forecasting project. I remember Dr. Crick telling me, if we don't take care of our planet, the Gulf Stream's going to stop. Like literally one day it will stop. And he told me this is back in the early 90s. He said, part of the indications when we're going to have a problem is when it snows in the UK, which has happened recently, right? And I was listening to what he was saying, and it's just incredible. I mean, we have this beautiful planet, that we need to take care of, and it's like, the next person's going to do it, but there are no more next people, because if we don't do something now, in another 300 or 400 years, nothing good's going to happen. When we talk about space travel, but I mean, living on Venus is not going to be so interesting for us.
It's also not going to take 200 or 300 years. We really have a very tight window of opportunity now, right? The IPCC report recently published made it very clear that we need to act now. There is a leak that has been going around that a future publication from IPCC is going to say they really only have 4 years to reach peak carbon in order to avoid the worst of climate change. And we're already locked in for 30 more years of what we've gone through in the US, in China, in Europe, in terms of floods, in terms of wildfires. I mean, these things are not.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I remember Dr. Crick was telling there'll be massive hurricanes. I said, what's a massive hurricane? A massive hurricane is one that's 250 to 300 miles an hour. It's something we'd never really experienced before, right? These are going to be and he said in places that have never been hit, like in the Northeast US, that have rarely get hit, he said they'll start to move in different directions as the Gulf Stream shifts. So I was fascinated by it, but Simon, you're right. I mean, we got to do something. The other thing is we got to help, the one thing about humanity that we got to understand is we need to help each other. We're all in this together. It's not Africans against Europeans or Americans or Asians. It's about how we can make a dent in the universe so that our kids and our grandkids are going to be, because I got to tell you, it's not going to be a very nice life in another 100 years unless we do something right this second. And I mean, seriously, do something. For everybody out there that's listening, take it to heart. We are going through massive changes. Our population will go from 8.1 billion to estimated 13 billion, and our average temperatures could be as high as 8.6 degrees higher than what they are today. If this all happens, nothing good's going to happen. We need to bind together and use technologies just like Simon has to be able to make those kind of donations, to be able to get the word out to everybody. Listen, we're all in this together. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you are. We still got the same issues. We got to help with environment. We got to treat each other in a better way. And we got to figure out how we can all sustain each other by being able to develop the food processes and products to help. So it's a really, really interesting time in it. And I'm really proud to say that it's great to have you on the show today. We've got about 3 more minutes, Simon. So tell us what your plans are and how do people get a hold of you?
So the plans are expansion. So we're talking with a couple of accelerators, incubators in Southeast Asia, talking to a couple of big companies and some VCs and so. So we're raising money in the next probably 4 to 6 months. And you can get a hold of us on Twitter, on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram. Handprint.tech is our website. If you want to drop me an email, it's simon@handprint.tech. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And if anyone's interested in learning more, just drop us a note and we can talk.
Thank you so much. And to my audience, thank you for attending again to another episode of Gary's Picks. My name's Gary Fowler, and it's great to have Simon on here today. Let's all make a difference. Let's all work together to bring the right product, the right opportunity to the right place at the right time to solve these issues that we all have in front of us and for future generations that they're going to face. Let's do that now. Let's not talk about it. Let's not think about it. Let's act. So get a hold of Simon. To June and Joel and the entire VC Task Force team, I want to thank you for having me again host Gary's Picks. You're making a dent in the universe, Joel and June, and let's keep it moving forward into the VCs in Silicon Valley. There's some great opportunities. Help the startups out. To investors that are listening from around the world, think about it. Join VC Task Force. It's a good place to be able to get great information, incredible companies and networks and contacts. So thank you very much, Joel. Appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Gary, for another excellent Gary's Picks event. Simon, your company is really well placed, and as you discussed in the interview, the time is now for these types of solutions. So we need to focus on this. So we'll see everybody back in 2 weeks on September 15th for the next event, next Gary's Picks event. Until then, stay well, stay healthy, and stay safe. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Cheers. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.